Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. The Warriors will certainly make changes during the season, and three players are favorites to be traded. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody and Tracy Jackson-Davis could say goodbye to the Warriors at any time. It has been an underwhelming offseason thus far for the Golden State Warriors, as they have failed to make any additions to their roster outside of the 2025 draft. Golden State was expected to be active this offseason to upgrade their roster around their star trio of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green to chase another championship during the 2025-26 season. Instead, the ongoing saga between the Warriors and restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga has caused Golden State to miss out on multiple free agent targets. Despite this, it has been reported that they have deals in place with multiple free agents that are expected to be finalized after Kuminga's situation is resolved. While that may be the case, the Warriors may also elect to make some trades either before the season begins or ahead of the trade deadline, and these three players could be potential trade candidates. Jonathan Kuminga. For Kuminga, it appears as though his time in Golden State is nearing an end, as he has turned down the Warriors' contract offer this offseason after falling out of Steve Kerr's rotation last season. Despite this, the 22-year-old forward is expected to be back with the Warriors entering the season, as he has not drawn much interest from other teams around the league, and those who have shown interest have failed to meet Golden State's high asking price. While Kuminga will likely be back in Golden State this season, the Warriors are expected to try and move him ahead of the trade deadline, and they should see many teams show interest in the young forward that could also help them upgrade their roster by acquiring key players in a package. Moses Moody. Moses Moody played a large role for the Warriors last season, both off the bench and in the starting lineup, as he put together arguably the best season of his young career. Despite this, the Warriors could look to move on from the 23-year-old guard this season, especially if they are able to land another key piece to their roster to help them chase a championship. Of course, it has been reported that Golden State is not looking to move Moody, though that could change if they are offered the right deal for him. Tracy Jackson-Davis. While the Warriors are in desperate need of frontcourt depth, Tracy Jackson-Davis could be another player they could listen to offers for this season. After his successful rookie season, Jackson-Davis saw his minutes cut last season in favor of Quinton Post, which led to his production taking a hit. Now, with his role in Kerr's rotation uncertain, especially if the Warriors sign Al Horford in free agency, the Warriors could look to move him to a new team this season and possibly use him in a trade package to land another key frontcourt piece. For the Warriors, they may be forced to trade away some of their key players this season after failing to make many moves this summer, especially if they want to compete for another title in the loaded Western Conference with Curry, Butler, and Green leading the way. Warriors could get second chance with defensive-minded guard next season. The Golden State Warriors haven't done much this summer, but they might be ready to make some deals. Nothing this summer has exactly been fun for the Warriors, as they've spent most of the past few months trying to figure out the Jonathan Kuminga situation. With both sides yet to budge on their ideal outcomes, there has been almost no progress on a potential deal. However, with next season quickly approaching, that situation will be resolved at some point in the not-so-distant future. Considering that Kuminga's situation with the Warriors will be settled sometime soon, the Warriors might have an incredibly busy September. Melton back with the Warriors? Last season, the Warriors got out to a hot start, competing with the Oklahoma City Thunder for the West's top spot in the opening weeks. However, DeAnthony Melton's injury was the beginning of the end for the Warriors. After Melton tore his ACL, the Warriors began to spiral before dealing him to the Brooklyn Nets for Dennis Schroeder. Considering that Golden State never found a true replacement for his impact, Bleacher Report's Eric Pincus recently wrote that he expects the Warriors to run it back with Melton next season and give him a deal at some point this offseason. While the Warriors haven't always been able to be in title contention since Kevin Durant's departure in 2019, 2026 might offer the franchise's best chance of competing for a title outside of 2022. With Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler leading the way, any role players who have already proven they can fit in with the Warriors and contribute to winning are a no-brainer for Golden State to add. Warriors fans should be livid if Jonathan Kuminga disaster extends any further. this better not stretch into the season. As the Golden State Warriors have remained at an impasse with restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga this offseason, they have been held in a virtual chokehold in free agency, unable to finalize their negotiations with a number of veterans on the market who they desperately need. Now, as September begins, there still remains no resolution in sight for Kuminga until the end of the month, and, if the cohesion of the team's roster is affected once the season begins, fans should be extremely upset with the front office for how they've handled the situation. While part of the blame surely lies on Kuminga's camp's refusal to adequately adjust their lofty expectations to the cold realities of the market, the organization's indecision and lack of commitment to one direction truly lie behind their stagnancy during this highly important offseason. Kuminga's chokehold on the Warriors could have major implications for the start of the regular season. As the offseason has worn on, Golden State and Kuminga's representation have still failed to reach an agreement for him to return to the organization, at least on a short-term basis. At the beginning of the offseason, it was widely expected that Kuminga would seek a deal in the range of $30 million annual value. When it became apparent that the coldness of the current market would allow neither for an offer sheet nor a suitable sign-and-trade opportunity, the two sides returned to the drawing board, ultimately finding common ground on a potential short-term deal that would allow him to find a new destination in the near future. Yet, the two sides have come to an impasse over some of the more specific terms of the deal, including the possibility of a team or player option, meaning that the Warriors still have yet to make a major move in free agency as a direct result of their continued financial uncertainty. Nevertheless, when the Kuminga situation is resolved, the organization will need to jump into action quickly. Training camp opens on September 29th, and, as of now, Kuminga has no real incentive to sign any sort of deal before his qualifying offer expires on October 1st. Warriors' path to the championship lies in the hands of Draymond Green. They need him to stay strong defensively. As the Golden State Warriors attempt to make a run at a championship with their veteran trio next season, a vast number of questions remain regarding both their roster construction and the continued viability of their established core. Yet, perhaps the biggest question might come from an unnoticed source. As Draymond Green ages, will his defensive prowess continue to hold up? Without a doubt, Green is the defensive quarterback of the team, and, if their offense regresses to its relatively pedestrian performance, Green's ability to continue guarding all 5 positions will be more important to the team than ever before. Draymond Green must continue to be among the best defenders in the league for the Warriors to have a shot. Last season, at age 35, Green played a healthy mixture of the 4 and the 5 for Golden State, averaging 9 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.6 assists through 68 games. Yet, in addition to his ability to be a secondary playmaker behind Stephen Curry, it was his defensive IQ that continued to be his most impressive trait on the court. After Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs missed the second half of the season with a blood clot, Green quickly became one of the favorites to win Defensive Player of the Year. While the award ultimately went to rim-protecting big man Evan Mobley, Green's enduring ability to account for his lack of positional size allowed him to play a rather effective center for the Warriors when they needed it, and his immersive understanding of nuanced and intense defense continued to shine through. Yet, as Green has gotten older, injuries have limited his effectiveness at times. Over the past 5 seasons, Green has missed a combined 105 games due to injury or rest, playing only 46 games in 2021-22 as a result of a lower back injury. For other aging elite defenders, including Rudy Gobert, younger, more athletic defensive phenoms have begun to creep up on their places among the best defenders in the league in recent years. Youngsters such as Ozar Thompson, Evan Mobley, and Dyson Daniels are, as we speak, becoming the new defensive archetypes. For Green, however, it has never been his athleticism or his height that have made him an impactful defender, it has always been his unmatched basketball IQ. Last season, the Warriors had the best defensive rating in the league following the All-Star break. While this was heavily impacted by the arrival of Jimmy Butler, Green still served as the team's defensive quarterback, and, in order for the team to continue to compete in a loaded Western Conference, he will need to continue his stellar performance next season. Therefore, while Golden State still has many questions surrounding their path to contention, Green's skill set remains as vital as ever to any chance the team might have to push through the gauntlet. Painful truth: Jonathan Kuminga must accept in free agency. Kuminga have sat at an impasse this offseason. The young forward has been hesitant to accept the organization's 2-year, $45 million offer for a number of reasons. Yet, according to Tim Bontemps on a recent episode of the Hoop Collective, Kuminga's sole recourse, which involves him taking the qualifying offer and entering unrestricted free agency next offseason, would make it almost impossible for him to recoup the funds he misses out on initially. Although there has been well-documented strife between Kuminga and the organization throughout this contractual saga, it could ultimately be in his best interest to take the short-term deal they have offered. Jonathan Kuminga's qualifying offer is not a good gamble for him to make. As a restricted free agent, the lone leverage Kuminga has preserved this offseason against Golden State is the threat that he could always play on his 1-year, $7.8 million qualifying offer next season, guaranteeing unrestricted free agency upon its expiration and forcing the organization to lose their most valuable trade asset for nothing. While, in some ways, this would be preferable for Kuminga, as he would be able to have complete control over his next destination, Bontemps points out why it could be the wrong move in the long run. Kuminga's qualifying offer is like $7.5 million. He's getting offered somewhere around the potential to make $45 million over 2 years, and for him to get the number back, he'd have to have a salary next year that starts somewhere around $40 million, which is almost in any scenario extraordinarily unlikely. Across the NBA this offseason, restricted free agents have been the victims of a relatively frozen market, leaving them essentially no option other than to return to their organization. In some of these players' cases, however, taking the qualifying offer is a gamble that could pay off later. For Josh Giddey of the Chicago Bulls, for example, the difference between his projected $20 million annual value and his qualifying offer, which sits at around $11 million, is something that can be made up with a larger contract down the line. For Kuminga, however, it has been made clear this offseason that he will likely not fetch his desired $30 million annual value at this point in his career, making it almost impossible for him to overcome the deficit in earnings he would take on this year by playing on the qualifying offer. To Kuminga, who has made only $24 million in his career to this point, this is no small matter. Therefore, while it puts the young forward in an unfortunate situation, he must accept the painful truth that his only option is to return to Golden State on a 2- or 3-year deal. Warriors predicted to make massive roster decision. The Golden State Warriors find themselves in a rather strange situation with the 2025-26 NBA campaign closing in, as they have just 9 players under contract at the current point in time. At this point of the offseason, that's an incredibly risky play by the Warriors, but Bleacher Report's Eric Pincus seems to believe Golden State has something up its sleeve. More news: Milwaukee Bucks received devastating trade prediction in a piece where Pincus made some predictions for the remaining NBA free agents. He made a rather strong prognostication for the Warriors, projecting them to sign all of DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II, Al Horford and Jonathan Kuminga. He doesn't think Golden State will stop there, either. Expect Golden State to sign 5 to 6 more players in September, Pincus wrote. Well, if that's the case, then the Warriors will have to get busy, because outside of their core guys, their current roster is pretty bare. Golden State appeared to re-establish itself as a serious championship contender last year when it swung a blockbuster trade to acquire Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat just before the trade deadline. The Dubs looked reinvigorated after the deal, but injuries prevented them from making a deep playoff run. And that's just the problem with the Warriors. Their core of Stephen Curry, Draymond Green and Butler is old with a ton of mileage, and all 3 players have dealt with nagging injury issues. Taking that into consideration, it's important for Golden State to maintain future flexibility while attempting to contend in the present, which is what makes its contract standoff with Kuminga all the more imperative. The Warriors are being careful not to overpay Kuminga, who doesn't seem to be generating a ton of legitimate interest around the league. More news: Celtics slapped with brutal Jason Tatum prediction. You have to figure that Kuminga will cave and accept a deal from Golden State at some point, but until then, the Dubs are in limbo. But yeah, The Warriors may want to get started filling out their roster now before it's too late.